I don't want to look at yourself on the screen.
Oh, I keep pressing.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Robert Barr and
Fran Gafvert.
Fran Gafvert. Thanks for being here with me for this Shabbat service and with all of us who are joining us online, some live and some in the archives. We begin our service first with a reading and then an explanation. So if you'll begin, would you do that?
I'd love to. Thank you. 6 days we speak. Tonight we listen. 6 days we build. Tonight we rest. 6 days we take care of others. Tonight we nurture ourselves. 6 days we work to change our world. Tonight we are renewed by what is eternal. 6 days we plan for the future. Tonight we are enveloped in the present. 6 days we eat and drink in haste.
Tonight we savor the taste of bread and wine and feel the bond of the world that feeds us. 6 days we teach. Tonight we learn. 6 days we hear the clamor. Tonight we listen for clarity. 6 days we struggle to expand our influence. Tonight we are dissolved in a greater influence. 6 days we focus our vision of the task at hand. Tonight we look beyond what we can see. May each of us find our Sabbath peace. Shabbat Shalom. So it's great to be here with you. I'm delighted that we're able to share this service tonight. Fran Gafvert is both a member of Congregation Beth Adam and Director of Vital Services at Jewish Family Service. And we're going to be talking about that later. But the first thing we're doing is experiencing our service. Our liturgy gives voice to a kind of Judaism that's bold and modern and new. I mean, you know that. You've been around these services a long time.
Absolutely.
And it started here at Congregation Beth Adam in Cincinnati in Ohio, and then we built the online congregation to allow this voice, which is really important, to go beyond the walls of our congregation and really beyond the walls of the city. We recognize that Judaism needs a facelift, if you will. It needs to be have a new voice, a strong voice. Just like our ancestors wrote what was meaningful to them in their age, it seems incumbent upon us that we would do the same thing, create new services that are reflective of who we are, the world in which we live, our understandings of science and modernity. And thus we've created this liturgy here at the congregation. We've changed our educational system, also working with the kids to teach them more critical thinking skills and get to the adults to understand our place as modern Jews. And then we use technology as a way to share this with others. Some of you are chatting online right now, I know that. Some of you will watch the service later. The really nice thing, we changed platforms, and we've talked about that a couple of times, is a couple of people have written me who've never been able to watch live, and they're really excited that they can read the comments later. They never got to see the comments, and in fact, they were able to comment and be part of an ongoing conversation. So if you're watching this on Saturday or Sunday or Monday, you can make a comment, somebody else can come back and make another comment responding to you. So this is an ongoing conversation. You can also always scroll down the page and see services from last week or the week before, 2 weeks. So you never really even have to miss services, because one of the things that modern technology allows us to is to engage in our Jewish experience when it's convenient for us, because we live in a hectic time. So we're delighted you're here. Fran, I'm delighted you're here. I'm going to introduce you again a little bit later as we move forward. We're going to continue now with our candle lighting. You want to start with the English? And then I'll read the Hebrew while you're lighting.
Okay, sure. On Shabbat, we light the candles. Candles bring forth light, illuminating the darkness. Candles offer us warmth, providing comfort. Candles awakening us as we reach for possibilities. As we light these candles, let us use their light to stretch beyond ourselves, touching others, bettering our world.
Baruch ha'or ba'olam, blessed is the light within the world. Baruch ha'or ba'adam, blessed is the light within each person. Baruch ha'or ba'Shabbat, blessed is the light of the Sabbath. You like candles like I do.
How's that?
Drop them.
I won't drop the lit match.
Yeah. Thank you. So great. Thanks for lighting the candles. And as is our custom now, is we have a conversation. So as I said, you're Fran Gafvert of the Jewish Family Service of Cincinnati. but I've known you even before you were.
Oh, yes.
I've known you for a long, long time. So it's great you're here. And the reason I invited Fran to join and participate in services tonight is Jewish Family Service was a co-partner, a community partner with our Vic Strecker speaker, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later. So this is really part of a wider program that we're doing. But I really wanted to start talking to you about Jewish Family Service and the kind of work you're doing, because I think a lot of us, when we hear the word Jewish Family Service, if we grew up in a community that had one, oftentimes we thought of them doing maybe sort of traditional counseling and maybe doing some parent education programming, things like that, maybe an adoption. But I think you're involved in something even bigger and a little bit different than that. Could you talk about that?
Absolutely. And actually, you mentioned 3 of our other departments of Jewish Family Service, so let me mention the 4th. Oh. We have a very large senior adult department that helps seniors age successfully. But coming back to our department, we have a department called Vital Services, and our goal is to serve the most vulnerable, first in our Jewish community, but also just as importantly in a neighborhood that we're located in. Mm-hmm. So we're reaching out to people who experience hunger, poverty, some are homeless, and there is a lot of chronic mental health issues within that population. So we're seeing people who are very vulnerable. They're often adults. Yes, we do see some families, but we see a lot of lost souls actually in the Jewish community.
Is that, I think, a lot of us, I think there was a perception in the Jewish community that Jews are all doing okay, that we're all successfully employed, that we're all earning enough money to live, that there are no alcoholics in the Jewish community, there's no spousal abuse in the Jewish community, and everything's sort of really good in the Jewish community. But sounds like what you're saying, that's not necessarily accurate representation of the Jewish community.
Very true. And I'm glad you bring that up, Bob, because I think that's one of the issues and one of the challenges that those of us who are here to support and help Jewish people who are struggling, that we have to understand. We all need to understand that it's very difficult for anyone who's experiencing poverty and hunger, and especially mental illness, to come forward and say, I need help. Mm-hmm. But I think that there's a perception in our Jewish community and in the greater community that Jews are successful, that we're all well educated, and when someone falls under that baseline and is struggling perhaps with a mental health issue or has lost a job, that it's very easy for that individual to be in denial of what's going on. There's a lot of shame that, gee, I'm letting people down. I'm Jewish, and I've been successful, and I'm there to help others. And Tikkun Olam is such a big part of our religion.
Yeah, repairing the world, sure.
Right, and I can't help others. I can't be there for others. And there's so much shame. So it's very hard, I think, for people in that situation, Jewish or not, but particularly in the Jewish community, to even come forth.
Yeah, and are other Jewish communities doing this, or is it more unique to Cincinnati? That we did a demographic study about
about 8 years ago.
Oh, that long ago. I remember it was, and yes. It became to recognize, and that was part of the positive parts of the demographic study, was to identify that we have this problem, and I think it then challenged the community to say, this is a reality, what do we do about it? Because it was almost sort of a hidden part of the Jewish community.
Exactly. It's very hidden. And I think the impetus behind that study, we had launched our first food pantry some years prior to that, but I think a lot of the community didn't really believe. When they walked into the pantry and they recognized that we had matzah on the shelves or honey at Rosh Hashanah, or that we were providing kosher food for Jews who required it, and other Jewish volunteers who worked with us were just amazed that there were Jews who were poor. And I think that's something that's nationwide, and there are some wonderful, wonderful pantries in the Jewish Family Service Network across the country, some much bigger than ours. Our Jewish population here is maybe 25,000.
Yeah, if we count.
Chicago, Detroit have very large pantries, certainly in New York. But what we're doing that's a little different here, and there are there are some other programs like this at Jewish Family Services throughout the country. Is we have created a wellness program.
What's that?
So what we have is, in conjunction with our food pantry in the same building, we built an activity center for clients with chronic mental health issues, and the focus being in the Jewish community, because these individuals really had no place to come to be in community, to be together. They're unaffiliated Jews. They're Jews who maybe are Jews by birth, but still feel strongly about their Judaism, see themselves as Jews, but they've not participated, partly or mostly because of the poverty element. They live in places where most other Jewish people do not live. They're scattered all over, and they really have had no place to be together. So they come, they get food, then they get other nurturing and sustenance. We do Tai Chi activities. We have computer classes. We have cooking and nutrition classes. We have support groups. And then we celebrate the Jewish holidays together. And that's been very, very meaningful for these
That's
clients.
great. And I know it's on the campus of the Jewish Family Service, which is also sort of a Jewish Family Service. Those of you who joined us before know that that's the Reform Seminary. That's where I trained.
Hebrew Union College.
I'm sorry.
You said on the campus of Jewish Family Service.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hebrew. Thank you. I think
Our building is on Hebrew Union
College. Oh, thanks. That's why I always work with somebody else. And Hebrew.
Got to keep after him.
That's right. It's this time of night. So Hebrew Union College. So it's interesting. So students can be involved. So young rabbinic students can get involved in learning about these kind of issues too. So those of us who might have been in the rabbinate for a long time, these are issues that we might have learned about once we were in the rabbinate. The students are learning about it earlier, also learning how to engage folks like this in programming. People with vulnerable people right away versus being, oh, that's scary or unusual or weird.
What's beautiful about what we're doing is, yes, the Hebrew Union College rabbinic fellows work with us, work with our clients, so they get that hands-on experience, and and they're trained in chaplaincy through the programs at HUC. But then they actually get to work with our clients. It's meaningful to the students. It's meaningful to the clients. And the other beautiful thing is we have volunteers from the community who come in and help cook meals with the clients when we're planning a holiday celebration, teaching the Tai Chi or yoga class, but participating with us in the say the holiday event. We all sit around at the table together. Client, staff, volunteer, and we make community.
That's wonderful.
And that's the beautiful part.
I want to ask one question before we move to the Vic Strecker conversation. So some of us who don't live in Cincinnati, what kind of things can people do to help respond to the issue of the vulnerable people in our communities? What kinds of things might we consider doing? Where might we look?
I think that's a very good question, and I think it's very important, really, that people get outside of their own comfort sphere and volunteer. And I think people will find it very comfortable once you start giving back, once you start connecting with people who are different and helping them with things they need. Congregation Beth Adam does a lot of volunteering, working in the soup kitchen, for instance. Interfaith Hospitality Network, helping homeless families, or just doing collections for food, for a food pantry, and bringing those to the facilities that are serving clients, and learning a little bit more about the other and not being so separate. And I think that helps everyone. That's
great. That's very helpful. And I would encourage everyone to do that. And what brought sort of Jewish Family Service and Beth Adam together recently, though we've done work over the years together, is that we hosted Vic Strecker. And next week, there'll be a video online that you actually interviewed Vic. And Vic wrote a book called On Purpose. I think we're going to put it up on the screen right now. You can see it. Vic is a professor at the. We have it even better than that. We have technology. Fran didn't know that Sam, who's running the camera, that had it all set up. So Vic Strecker is a professor at University of Michigan. He is in the public health department. And out of a very tragic moment in his own life, the death of his daughter, he really lost his focus and was really trying to rebuild it. And through lots of research came on this notion that people that have purpose are healthier. And in his book On Purpose, which is a graphic novel, he lays that out. He's actually working on a second book that's, as he said, words versus pictures and words. But he shows the academic research that does this. And when he spoke here 2 Sundays ago at the congregation, it was really pretty powerful. I was really struck by the number of people who afterwards, people were going, wow, I sort of knew it. I mean, and I thought it was just going to be, well, what did you wrote about it? What did you say?
Well, it was very powerful. Vic is a very dynamic speaker, and he has a true sense of purpose that he came to through a very difficult journey, having lost his daughter. And he, and great medical background, he's just done a lot of very important work in research and trying to understand what makes people tick and how can people live healthier lives. And what he realized was most of the messages that we put out are eat healthy, quit smoking, or you'll die. And to do all these things with a very negative message. I mean, we give these messages to our children at times. We try not to present things that way to our clients, but what he has suggested through this graphic novel that he wrote, which was a very, very clever way to get the message across, I think, that people, if we sit back and think about what we truly value, is it friendship, is it honesty, it's often numerous things, but if we think about the things that we truly value and try to align our daily lives with those values, then once we find purpose, we strive in a positive way towards wellness. And it was a very powerful message presented in a very novel way with so much meat behind it. There was so much to it.
Well, I think a lot of people came and they went, oh, this is another self-help book. And that they felt like, oh, I've heard some of this stuff before, it's not going to be. And when he started talking about the statistics and the research that's been done, whether it's about Alzheimer's research or living longer, and one of his points, actually, it's in the interview with you, he makes the point that people who have purpose live longer even though they don't care about living longer. That's not the purpose, isn't it? But once you know that you're committed to doing something, and he really breaks it down into manageable chunks. I think that was another piece of it that I like. He kept it, sometimes people go, man, this is so big. He said, purpose doesn't have to be big. It just needs to be intentional. It needs to be what we value. And we wanted to partner with the Jewish Family Service because we thought there was a psychological component and a human health component that sort of made sense for the two communities to be sharing. And you wrote a blog about it. You got to reflect on it and interview him. And what were other takeaways that you had? Have you found, have you been able to bring it even into your own work?
Oh, absolutely. So it struck me both on an individual, personal level. So I spent some time reading the book, and he has an app that you can have on your phone or on your laptop where you can check in with your purpose on a daily basis. It's just a 5-10 minute mindfulness kind of practice, which is really nice. I think if we're so rushed and we don't think about what's going on in our lives every day, and we don't stop to pause and even just be grateful for things that are happening in our lives and maybe to correct our path. So I spent a little bit of time working with the app, found it really very pleasurable to use and a nice, moment to reflect and kind of guide me. But it was just very obvious too, because I am a social worker, the power that this has for our clients. So when you're working with clients whose, every day is a struggle, not having enough food, or I can't pay my rent, I can't get to my doctor's appointments, multiple physical ailments, etc. And Jewish Family Service is there to help kind of stop the bleeding and kind of put things on course. But to actually say to a client, and we have to remember to say this, let's pause for a moment and just dream a little and kind of sit back and let go of the pain of everything that's going on and think about the things that are really important to you.
Wow.
And the look on a client's face when you say that is just wonderful, because they all of a sudden have permission to really step back and re-examine and kind of focus in a positive way. It's a very positive message.
Right, because that they have control and they can have an impact.
It's empowering.
Right.
It's very empowering.
Right. And I think that's really, it's wonderful. It's interesting that because the vulnerable community you're working with, it's empowering for them. I think for those of us who aren't vulnerable, who are in a better sort of place, how much more empowering it is. And I think that that's the challenge. I think a lot of times we get so caught up in the cacophony of noise of day-to-day living, we forget what our purpose is. And one of the profound questions Vic asks, as he does it with the students, it's also in the interview, it's in the book, he says, what do you want your legacy to be? He actually has them draw a headstone and imagine what somebody would say at their funeral. You know, what mark are you going to leave on the world? What are you going to do? What do you want to do? And I think it's a challenge to get people to think that way. It's a little bit depressing, obviously, but the reality is we are all going to die. That's just a fact. And the question is, what do we leave? And what's our purpose? Is our purpose? And he breaks it down into our purpose it involved in sort of global purpose. How do we want to touch the world? What do we do within our work or our studies? What do we do within our family? And what do we want for ourselves? And they don't have to be big. And he asks each of us to think about it. And his app really just asks a couple minutes to say, are you aligned? Are you doing what you say? And then how do you feel as a function of it? Because there is a relationship. I think a lot of us experience when we're excited. It's interesting. If you have a really great project that you're really excited, it's amazing how little you need to sleep. You're like going, this is great. I can stay up. I can keep on working on this. And you go to bed. You feel like you've done something. You get up in the morning. You're energized. That's purpose. That's, we felt it. We tend to we exercise more when we're in a good place. If we're a little bit sort of lost, maybe we go, I'm not getting out of bed to exercise this morning. I'm not, this candy bar looks so good.
But what's nice is then those days that you feel really down or you don't feel like getting out of bed, if you open the app and you think about these things that are important to you, and you can still give yourself permission to not exercise one day.
Well,
but
thank
at
you.
least,
Tomorrow morning.
But you gave some pause and you gave some thought to how important these things are and what really matters.
Right.
So then sometimes the little things and the cacophony goes away.
Right. And why we brought Vic in, and I think it's important, is as a congregation that recognizes that we're not going to be rescued outside of ourselves. There is no great hand that's going to swoop down and make right all the problems we have or straighten ourselves out. Vic's approach is very personal. From a very scientific, evidence-based perspective, he says there's a way to do this. It's grounded in science. It's grounded in psychology. It's grounded in public health. It's grounded in information, and you can do it. And it's a very empowering program, and it fits naturally with the sort of the religious experience that we give voice to here. So that's why I really was really comforted, and I really found it very profound. I would, as we're drawing this to a close, I would urge those of you who are participating tonight or watching later in services to go to Amazon. You can order the book there, or you can go to dungbeetle.org. Dungbeetle.org.
He's serious.
And he's serious. I am, right? It's an and when we're going to put up the website next week, when we put up the page with the interview that Fran did, the dung beetle is the metaphor that Vic uses a lot, because dung beetles are very purpose-driven animals, bizarrely so. But it became a great metaphor for what they're doing. So take a look at it. If you go to dungbeetle.org, or you look up Vic Strecker, you can see his TED Talk. Next week, you'll see the interview here. On his website, his backstory about his life, about his daughter, the research he's done, the app becomes available there. So I would urge you to take a look at those things, to go to the website, to take a look at his book. And then next week, go to Cincinnati OJC, and you'll be able to see the interview that Fran masterfully did.
Oh, absolutely.
You did a great job.
Thank
so
you.
I'm delighted that you're here, that you were able to share this, that we talked about an important issue. I hope all of us think about how we can be players in changing the world in this way. We talk about other kinds of repairing the world, but there's this one-on-one work that needs to be done with people who are vulnerable, and our community, the Jewish community, has that. We need to recognize it, and we need to take responsibility, because only we can make a difference.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you for doing all the work. So we're going to continue. This is our week of our when we do memorials. So please, if you have names of individuals that you didn't send in, feel free to post them at this time. Names of deceased loved ones who you hold in your heart tonight. The cycle of life unfolds. Just as we rejoice in new life, we mourn its final ending. The inevitable death of those whose lives are such ours. Today, we join voices with others as we say aloud the words which help us recall those we've lost. We remember the moments we've shared, the laughter and the tears, the beauty and the pain. Inevitably, as our lives intertwined, as we have touched one another, we've been influenced, changed, enriched by their presence, and so, as we mourn their loss, we celebrate their life. The cycle continues, their lives forever touching and marking the continued unfolding of our own. We pause at this time to reflect upon those who are no longer among us. This moment of remembrance links life to life and generation to generation. Tonight we recall Celia Cohen, Morris Drake, Margie Peterson, Elba Van Meter, Elaine Doutney, Karen Borstein, Rosalie Belzer. We also hold in our heart this night those who've died as a result of violence and terror that mars our world. Those who've died defending the principles of justice and peace and democracy throughout the world. We think of those who've died as a result of natural disasters, and we hold in our heart all of our loved ones who no longer walk among us. Ein b'dei ha'mavet ha'koach la'akol ramaj tabun balev. Death cannot take that which is locked in our hearts. With our tears and our sorrow we remember. With our courage and our strength we do not forget. Acts of kindness, deeds of courage will remain. Beauty created, wisdom shared is not lost. With our tears and our sorrow we remember. Im dama'ot be'einenu, be'et evlenu, yishmor al zecher achuvenu. With our tears and our sorrow we remember. Zeker tzadik livracha, may the memory of good people bless our days.
Let the Sabbath be a time for believing in what could be and seeing with new eyes. In this serious world, let us take ourselves less seriously. In these harsh times, let us listen for a soothing word. While the world around us unfolds in an instant, let us judge each other a little more slowly. Let the Sabbath shine a light into a corner of ourselves where hope is renewed. Let us remember a reason to be joyful, a way to be gentle. Let the Sabbath be a time for opening up. Let us find strength in our dreams and trust in our strength. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I understand.
Allergies.
This is for those of you who don't realize this, Cincinnati, I believe, is the allergy capital of the world.
Is it?
I don't know. It just feels that every time somebody moves to Cincinnati or
Right
lives,
here it is.
and many of you maybe experience the same thing where you live. We are having a heat, not wave.
Yeah.
It's just unusually warm. They're actually so warm that a lot of the bugs are coming out. So there's like flies, and somebody just said they saw bees in their house, and it's very strange. And
We need a frost.
We need a frost
We need the
badly,
frost.
and there are a lot of folks who are struggling with their allergies right now. And it's weird because people move to Cincinnati who never have allergies, and all of it they acquire them.
Exactly.
It's a tough city to live in. Are you able to read the Hallel? Would you like me to do it?
Let me try, and if I stop in the middle, you will
Continue.
You will.
And then, just so those of you online know, this is our regular challah. We actually have a fresh challah coming tonight because we are having bricks and mortar services celebrating our 18-year members, welcoming our new members, celebrating members who've made a legacy commitment to the congregation. So if you're in the Cincinnati area, come join us tonight, and we have a fresh challah, but it's not here yet. Sorry.
Since this is the false challah.
This is
Okay.
non-fresh challah.
In Jewish tradition, we share the challah as we celebrate the Shabbat. We are reminded that challah, a twisted loaf of bread, sustains and nurtures the life of our bodies. May the sharing of this challah sustain and nurture our hunger for knowledge and understanding of the world around us. May the sharing of this challah sustain and nurture our connection to those close by and those separated by distance and by time. May the sharing of this challah encourage us to reach out to those across our rooms, across our hallways, to those across our desks and across the miles. May the sharing of the challah strengthen and enrich our coming week.
Baruch HaMalka Peinu, blessed is the work of our hands. Baruch Hazon HaAdam, blessed is the vision of our minds. Baruch Lechem HaAretz, blessed is the bread of the earth. And then you have some juice or some wine, join with me. And Shabbat is our custom to share wine or juice with family, friends, and community. It reminds us that it's not enough for us to quench our physical thirst. We must nourish our spirit as well. As we celebrate Shabbat, may this wine or juice remind us to live our lives to the fullest and to embrace the joys and pleasures that life offers. Bruchim chachayim ba'olam, blessed is the life within the world. Bruchim chachayim ba'adam, blessed is the life within each person. So we say l'chaim, to life. I want to thank Fran for being here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here.
I'm glad you were able to do that. I'm glad Jewish Family Service was able to be a community partner. I'm delighted with the interview. Watch it. It's going to be online Monday or Tuesday. Go to Cincinnati OJC. Again, Cincinnati OJC. And if you've not watched the Steen Metz interview, who was also here, a survivor who spoke a couple weeks ago, you can watch that interview too. His presentations online, as well as some blogs as well. So look and access ourjewishcommunity.org. Go specifically to CincinnatiOJC.org. It'll take you right there. Go to our Facebook page. We're always updating what's going on. Next week, Reverend Sharon Dittmar is going to be joining me. Some of you remember her. She's been with us before. We always have a fun conversation. Exciting topic. I will post the topic. Some of you have been buying our Hanukkah Christmas cards. Please go to Zazzle.com and look for Our Jewish Community. That's our place within Zazzle, and you can find cards that we're producing. I know people are excited by the fact that they can share a Hanukkah Christmas card that acknowledges a family or a community or a business represents lots of different people from different sources. We hope you find those enjoyable and appreciate your support. Go to all the things that we're doing and continue to be a participant with us, because together our voices create an important message within the Jewish community, a vital Jewish community that says we are modern Jews who give voice to a modern Jewish experience, bold and proud and strong and together, a community that wraps around the world. I'm delighted you shared this night with us, this Shabbat. We close with the words that we close with every week. May we know blessings those who are near, and may we know blessings those who are far. And may the Sabbath bring its goodness to everyone soon, wherever they are. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.